Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this special live session. Actually, the first of 2025. I'm Itzik Amiel, and together with my friend Rabbi David Schwarz, we are super excited again to bring to you another inspiring stand episode. This is a collaborative broadcast that brought to you by the ABA International Law Section and the Switch. And in this series, David and I will interview international legal leaders out of the amazing community of the American Bar Association International Law Section members and share with you new insights, ideas, stories, and strategies to inspire you and to help you grow your professional practice or even your career. And you invited. So, hi, David. Always wonderful to see you again. A new year, a new David.
Always wonderful to see you. Happy New Year, both in the secular sense, and of course today also happens to be the Chinese New Year. So or the Asian New Year. So Happy New Year from that perspective as well. Happy New Year to everyone out there who's watching.
Thanks, David. This episode, you all know, it's titled, I know some of you asking what it's about. Sure, Counsel and Chemistry, the very model of Lawyer International. We always like to use the curiosity here in the titles just because we want you to hang out with us. Again, if you're joining us right now, type your name in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're dialing from. And remember, if you have questions during the session to our guests, do that as well over there. I will remind you again later on, but just remember it's for you and with you, so we want your interaction. Now, the legal profession is often seen as a bastion of logic, reason, and maybe unwavering adherence to precedent. But the image of this stoic, now like a lawyer pouring over a case files and start like all in the movies is a familiar one. But what if I told you that some of the most successful legal professionals have found a way to blend their analytical prowess with a touch of creative flair? What do you think, David?
Well, I think that bringing creativity to law is really one of the great unsung talents that we have as lawyers. That to the extent that we can be more creative in developing our arguments and the like, the more likely we are to be successful. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all to hear that. The interesting thing is that creativity comes in so many different flavors, and it's remarkable how that creativity, no matter what flavor it comes in, can actually be something that really enhances a lawyer's performance.
Absolutely. And I think when I prepared for this session, I found out that this unique, intersection of law and the creative expression is actually a fascinating phenomenon that is challenging the traditional perceptions of the legal field. Now, contrary for the popular belief that creativity and creative thinking are crucial to the job performance of lawyer, judges, and other working in law, innovation and out-of-the-box problem solving have become essential tools for legal professionals, navigating really the rapidly evolving landscape of our industry. In fact, the blending of analytical and creative capacities in what sets apart the true trailblazer in the legal world. If you really watch them carefully, you see that we are, and our guest is one of them for sure. Or in other words, the fusion of the left brain and the right brain thinking is what allowed them to stand out in the crowd and often conventional field of law. As we're going to explore in this episode, see the stories of those who have mastered this balance can provide valuable insights and inspiration for lawyers looking for to push really the boundaries of what's possible in the legal realm. The key is to recognize that creativity is not just nice to have, but an essential skill for navigating the complexities of the modern legal landscape that we all have. And this is the reason, by the way, we have the honor to have this episode with Advocate Willem den Hertog. He is a really proof, as you're going to see, of that breaking the mold can lead to incredible outcome. He's taking his legal expertise and fuse it with unexpected passion, like music and others. Yes, you heard me right, music. So before we invite William to join us, let me give you some highlights about Willem. And excuse me, Willem, we just pick up some. I know you have a lot more because so many years in the industry. But since he started practicing law in 1978, Willem de Noot has seen it all: large firms, small firms, simple criminal cases, complex international corporate cases. And after all those years, he still loves what he does. If you're going to see him watching, you're going to see him smiling all the time. During his chemistry studies, he took up law just for fun, and that joy is still present. And we're going to hear the story behind it today. The clients see and appreciate that. And I think that's at the end of the most important thing. More you will hear again in this insightful episode. So without further ado, we allow you, David. I mean, we'll bring William to join us, right?
Sounds great. Looking forward to
There
seeing
we
him.
go. So
There he
welcome,
is.
William. Thanks for joining us.
That was quite an introduction. I might have written that myself.
And I know it's irritating to sit behind the scenes to hear about yourself, but now it's the project is all of you, Willem. So first, great to have you here, and we know it took time, but we got you. We're happy, both of us happy that you are with us. So thanks for joining us and for your valuable time. But let's dive directly to our conversation, and I'll give the floor to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Itzik. So, Willem, we are so happy to have you on our episode of Standout. You are certainly one of the standout lawyers for me in the international law section of the ABA. And we titled this session with your help, Counsel and Chemistry, the very model of a lawyer international. Now, the title touches on several aspects of your background. You know, Itzik mentioned the chemistry. He touched a little bit on the music, but let's start with the rhythm of that title before we get to the actual words. The phraseology of the very model certainly hints to Pirates of Penzance and touches on one of your most endearing qualities, at least from my perspective. In each of the last few years, you've crafted songs that with lyrics recognizing the accomplishments of the leaders of the international law section. So that includes Joe Rea, Nancy Stafford, Marcos Rios. Tell us, how did you come up with those songs? Where did that come from? You know, what in your history said, oh, I should write lyrics to existing music? Want to hear more about that?
Well, it started with my father, who wrote for. He was a doctor, and with a lot of other doctors, he started a review, and he wrote songs for that. He also wrote songs for occasions such as weddings or birthdays, and I sort of got that from him. Plus, in the Netherlands, as you may know, as Itzik knows because he lives in the Netherlands, on St. Nicholas Day, the 5th of December, grown-ups, kids get presents, but grown-ups give each other poems gently lampooning something embarrassing that has happened in the past year. And my father was very good at that, and I unconsciously I tried to keep up with him and give him what for. So that is how it started, and then in school and in the university, at birthdays and weddings, I started writing songs. And I extended it in my legal practice at meetings such as International Bar, American Bar Association meetings. I get up and say a poem, read a poem that I've just written on the proceedings. And it's grown so bad that at drinks parties before a dinner, for instance, oh, will there be a poem? And then I modestly say, oh, no, I have to. Of course, I'd love to. And recently, a year and a half ago, at a meeting of Prime, which is organized by Jeffrey Golden, former chair of the section. Somehow the Pirates of Penzance came up, and a former president of Prime and I started singing the policeman's song. A policeman's lot is not a happy one. And so, apart from the poem that I wrote at the dinner table, also wrote a song, and the president and I happily sang when our tenant is not engaged in his employment to that tune with, of course, new words. And it's fun to do. It gives you a tag. You yourself, David, said, well, it's something that people recognize you by, and but it's mostly, as I said, fun to do. As Itzik just said, I started in law because I thought it was fun. It turned out to be fun, and after 47 years, it still is fun. So, uh, and a lot of the fun recently is taking part in the section, international law section of the American Bar Association proceedings.
Well,
Thanks for
Okay.
that, Willem. I mean, I know that David disappeared for a second, but
Yes.
allow me to continue. I mean, I would love the inspiring story, but you know, the idea of chemistry in the legal profession is quite intriguing. No, because often we think, of lawyers as purely intellectual being, but your story, if you hear it carefully, suggests there's so much more to the equation. So my question to you, Willem, on behalf of David, hopefully join us very soon, is what role has chemistry, both in interpersonal and perhaps even touch of the scientific kind,
Well,
playing your path to becoming a lawyer?
my my mother was a oh there's David again. My mother
my apologies.
had a PhD in chemistry, and my father was a doctor. So uh, at home we were what we call a beta environment. Alphas, uh, the literature people, of course, are quite nice, but they just didn't understand mathematics the way we did. So it was a choice for me either to study chemistry or medicine, and it became chemistry in Leiden University. Uh, at the time, after 2.5 or 3 years, you were supposed to have a mid course exam called a candidate's exam, which I didn't have yet. So I thought, okay, next year, I was thinking years, is going to be quiet, trying to finish off that exam. And I was living in a student house with some law students, and they left their teaching materials lying about, and I leafed through them. And it seemed sort of, as I said earlier, it seemed fun, it seemed interesting. And I remember going to the student dean of the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences and said, I'd like to do some law on the side. And she said, and of course, this is Holland, this is not the United States. She said, oh, yes, you should. It's a lot of fun. There's nothing to it. It's easy as pie. But that turned out, as I said, in the Netherlands, to be the case. But it was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. And what I liked about it was what I learned today. I read in the newspapers tomorrow, and with chemistry, you're further away from the day-to-day business of society. So it was from being a chemistry student who also dabbled in law, I became sort of a lawyer who also done some chemistry. And I started with my first firm, uh, then called Dutiel van Hoeven en Slager in Rotterdam. Before I finished chemistry, and after a year or so, they said, well, nearly finished is a bit silly, go finish it. So I have a double degree, and in my practice, I've done some patent law, which is of course useful if you have a scientific background, but mostly it's straight law, corporate law, employment law, all the things that happen to companies.
Thanks so much, Willem. That's amazing. And thanks so much for sharing all the stories. I think a lot of people didn't know about it, about you. Again, if you're joining us right now, we're still live and you are allowed to let us know that you are with us. Let us know who you are, where you're dialing from. And of course, if you have questions to Willem during the session, please type in also in the chat because we would love to bring your question To him, those who are joining us right now, we are here with Willem den Hertog talking about Counsel and Chemistry, the very model of Lawyer International. So let's continue our conversation. David, you were cut off. I don't know if you wanted to say something before, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say how it's remarkable how being creative for someone else, it can be a powerful tool in developing relationship. And I think that that's really highlighted by your story, and and highlighted by anybody who knows you, gets that sense just from being around you. So that was the point that I was trying to make. But this certainly highlights for all of our audience that this is absolutely live, recorded live. And so let me ask the next question, which focuses on the end of the title, and it references a Lawyer International. Now, here you're in Holland, you're doing law with and went back for chemistry. But where did the international come from? How did that come out to being? And your English is excellent. So, where did that come from?
To get to my English, one of the things that I found in developing a feel for a language is reading a lot. And in high school, I became fascinated by science fiction. And the father of a classmate had all science fiction, Isaac Asimov, Robert Heinlein, Robert Sheckley, Paul Anderson, and all those writers. And I read them all. And you should not, when you encounter a word, immediately go to a dictionary. You just read on. And after having encountered it a few times, you know what it means. So, and that is the English. Plus, after high school, we call it the gymnasium, and that implies that there's not just the modern languages and mathematics and the natural sciences, but also Greek and Latin, which helps understanding a language. After high school, I was an exchange student for a year in Pennsylvania. And of course, living in the United States really does a lot about your language, even in small town Pennsylvania. So that is where it became home. And I still remember halfway my stay there, it was for a full year, a Dutch traveling salesman came through town. And I could not for the life of me talk Dutch with him. It was so impregnated with English. So both of us talked English, even though it was a bit silly.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah. And then when I started my first job in Rotterdam, my patron for the first 3 years of being a lawyer and an attorney in the Netherlands, you are what is called a stagiaire, and you have a patron who guides you. And my patron was active in the AIJA, the AIJA, the Young Lawyers International Association. And so he launched me into that organization, and I loved it. I still do. And I find a lot of the old AIJA in the ABA International Law section. So, and that is going to conferences, talking to lawyers from other jurisdictions, really gives you a feel for practicing internationally.
Okay, thank you very much, Willem. I mean, actually, the audience give us more information. I see Luigi writes, besides composing songs and poems, Willem also remembers a lot of versions of the Iliad in ancient Greek. So, I mean, yes, so that's another fact that we didn't share, but absolutely true about Willem.
It's not much more than Andra Moena Pemusa Politopon Hosmala Pola Plante Pectoletron Hieron Poesi Perse, which are the two first lines of the Odyssey, as you'll remember.
Not me, but maybe everybody else in the audience will remember
And
those.
and then, of course, in Dutch legal practice, all practitioners, as I am by now, love to cite some Latin proverbs such as Nemo auditur sum turpitudinem allegans. No one will be heard in court if he invokes his own badness, his own evil.
Here's another fact, William. So I can see our community is engaged in extremely long Dylan songs.
Well, most of them
Great.
are very long.
And Andrew writes, William also composes on the spot. So that's another talent of your William. So I see the love that you're getting for the community is infectious. So great. I mean, again, those who listen to us, we are live with Willem den Hertog speaking on Counsel and Chemistry, the very model of Lawyer International. So we're glad to have all of you here, those of you already commenting. For those of you who didn't, now it's your time to ask a question to Willem before we're ending the session. So ask your question, anything you want to know, because we would love him to answer that, because success in any field, particularly in law, is rarely the result of a solo effort. You know that it's built on the foundation of relationship, mentorship, and community. So as you all guess, we are now coming to our attention switch moment and good opportunity to give attention to the people who really deserve it within the ABA International and global community. And I must admit that before we're asking our guests to give no more than two names. So don't get insulted if Willem don't mention your name. He wanted to mention tens of them, but we asked him only for two. So who are the two or three people, Willem, that you want to thank within the ABA International Law section, and why?
First of all, I met Jeffrey Golden, who I mentioned earlier, at an IBA meeting, and he put me on a list, which led to me being invited to a 2017 meeting in Barcelona. And Barcelona is always fun, so I went there. And as I said, I immediately recognized the very friendly old Asia atmosphere that was there. After the opening drinks, I said, "Okay, who's coming into town to have dinner?" And they said, "Oh, we're all going to the mergers and acquisitions dinner, but if you like, you can come along." So here, totally knew nobody, was at the mergers and acquisitions committee dinner, and it became better all the time. So first of all, Jeffrey Golden for putting me on the list. Then at that first meeting, I met Joe Rea, who was at every program, sat on the first row next to me, and became a great friend. And he has really been an influence on me. Then there are my predecessors. I've been a co-chair of the International Contracts Committee, Bill Johnson and Andrew Danis, who taught me everything there is to know about being a co-chair. And then honorable mentions go to William and not forgetting Laurie Hill and Robert Brown and his wife. When I first met Robert Brown and his wife, I'm sorry, her name escapes me for the moment. I said, "I know a song about you, Mrs. Brown," which was sung by Herman's Hermits. And it turned out she knew Peter Noon, who was Herman of the Hermits.
That's amazing.
When I went to Louisville to visit them, they put me up. They gave me a tour of, the Browns gave me a tour of a whiskey distillery, which had to put bourbon next to Scotch and Irish whiskey for me. And when I mentioned in a meeting in Paris that I was thinking of visiting Miami, William and Laurie Hill immediately put me up for almost an entire week and were the most gracious hosts. So that is one thing about the international law section, the great friendship that is felt by everybody.
And you get the love back from William. He writes, yeah, you are a charming house guest. And William. So that's that William right. And Vanessa writes that you also have a fan club there. They're all watching you, William. So see everybody, and I see that Luigi said you're on Crossfire. And there's another one. I think it's William. I have a question. I didn't get it right, but maybe you know what he means. I have a question. It said true or false? Specialization is for insects. I don't know what it means by it, but maybe you know anything about it. But at least he wanted to say something.
Yeah, well, it goes back to a saying by some Latin writer that basically we're all living in a giant in a giant frame, in a giant painting, and the people who know that are the people who are living. The others are just insects. So yes, specialization is for insects. Being a generalist is for the people who are living.
Got it. And you just more and more comments coming in. I mean, I must admit that the love that you get, it just reflects who you are, William. Because community, you just give back what you give all the time to all the community. And William, and I'm sure David will agree with me. Your story is really a testament to the power of breaking free for conventional thinking and embracing the unique dimension of who you are. It's actually a reminder that true success is not just about legal acumen, but also the ability to forge your own path and make a lasting impact that we see and witnessing all of us today. So I think, David, right? You agree, I guess.
I'll just add that the beauty of Willem is his authenticity, that he is who he is, and you get a chance to meet him, and he's the same each time. He's creative, he's fun to be around, and so that is exactly what everybody is touching on as they share their stories and their connections with you. So Willem, we're just so pleased to have had you here on this episode of Standout. And really, Counsel and Chemistry, the very model of a lawyer international, the ability to combine things, the ability to find rhythm in our daily life, and the ability to take that rhythm and to really make it music for the rest of us. We just so appreciate you.
Exactly. And before we say goodbye to you, William, don't leave us, because we want to speak behind William back when he leave us. But as we say here in Holland, it was kort and krachtig. Short and powerful session, David, and time is flying past. So we would love to thank you very, very much. It's been an honor having you here. So thank you for sharing the stories with all of us, and thank you for being our guest.
Thank you so much, Willem.
Thank you for having me. It's been great fun, as usual.
Awesome. All right, now I get to talk behind his back.
Willem left us.
Oh.
Now it's your time to talk behind his back.
Exactly.
So what is your
I'll start with, building on what you just said. What you study doesn't have to be what you do. Obviously we all know the phraseology YOLO, you only live once, YOLO. And it's like a big motto that people of all ages use. And it's so true. We only live once. And so don't let what you've done so far limit what you can do going into the future. He was studying chemistry, thought that all of a sudden law would be fun, pivoted to law, and he hasn't looked back because he's having a great time doing it. So that's the big one that I'll take away. I'll share one more quick thought, sure, and then send it back to you. The fact that he utilizes his creativity is a way of investing in the relationships that he has. And it really, you don't have to be creative to invest in relationships. It helps, but you don't have to be. The key is, are you investing time in the relationships that matter to you? And if you do that, then you're really taking away one of the key lessons that I take away from Willem's experience. And I think it's something that we can all appreciate. And it's not just, of course, it will help you in developing clients and the like, but it's much more than that. And that's a perfect way to send it back to you, Itzik, to talk about keys to relationship and moments of switching the focus. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, David. I mean, if I had to distill really a few key lessons from today's conversation so far, so here's what stand out to me. One, I think identify and embrace your unique talents and passion because they become your greatest asset, as you heard from Vinam. Second, don't be afraid to take on challenges that push you out of your comfort zone. You see, we heard it again and again, but also we heard in this episode this because that but often they're the most profound growth occurs in that place. And number three, invest in building, as David said, genuine relationship within our professional community. A genuine relationship, maybe that's the emphasis. They will become your most valuable resources and support system. Number four, approach your legal practice with global mindset. As Willem said several times, the world is interconnected, and expanding really your horizon can open up incredible opportunities, especially if you're part of the American Bar Association International Law Section. So, to give you some action step to take right away after listening to us, after listening, sticking with us here till the end, is one, reflect on one aspect of your background or your personality that sets you apart and brainstorm way to integrate it into your legal practice. Number two, reach out to maybe three people in your professional network this week. Yes, this week, whether it's a mentor or peer or someone you admire, and nurture those connections. And number three, identify one international legal topic or market that piques your interest and commit to learning more about it. As William said, learning, learning, learning. The moment you stop learning, we say that's the moment you start dying. Learn more about it and explore ways to expand your reach. And you're looking for number four, then consider exploring a creative outlet or hobby that you're passionate about. Don't be scared of it. You never know how it might interact with, enhance your legal network with other people. As you see, witness today with what William do in the community, just by standing up, by his being humble and being, very authentic, as David said. Remember, as the saying goes, success is not just about what you accomplish in your life. It's about what you inspires others to do. With that in mind, I encourage you all to embrace your unique path and make your mark on the legal landscape, and you reflect on today's conversation. I want you to consider this quote by Steve Jobs, who said, "The only way to get great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle." And I think that's the only thing. So now, friends, it's time to take action and implement what you've learned in this session. We have been here with Willem den Hertog. He's a top lawyer and a wonderful member of supporter, the American Bar Association International Law Section. And the last thing I have to thank is David. Without you, nothing will happen. And we are in the second year. So thank you for that, David, for the, again, an insightful episode, your kindness, your wisdom, and everything you share with all of us. So thank you, David.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Itzik. A pleasure to be with our audience, and really a pleasure to learn the lessons that we hear keep coming up over and over again about being authentic and leaning into who you are and developing relationships. That's what matters in life. And I'm just honored to be your friend and to have this opportunity to work with you. So looking forward to our next episode, where we're going to have a former president of the American Bar Association, Deborah Enix Ross, with us. So that will be Tuesday, February 11th, a little bit earlier than today, but stay tuned. Keep an eye out on LinkedIn and every other method that we do to communicate with all of you. And so, don't miss any of our sessions. All of the sessions that we've had are now available on the ABA International Law Section website. Just go to the AmericanBar.org website and do a search for Itzik and for me, and you will find all of our sessions really easily, and you can listen and catch up and take away the lessons about how you too can stand out.
And don't forget to share this episode with anyone you might need this lesson today. And until next time, keep growing, keep giving, and keep building success in a way that truly matters. See everyone in the next stand-up episode. Bye for now from David and me and everybody else. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.